Monday morning and we're in the yard. You saw on Saturday of last week, we were raising this 6F5 nice and high and making more space on the train track side. Why? Because today, at long last, the concreting in the Ashville rail yard is about to start. A couple of weeks ago in Weekly, I told you that we would not be supplying the concrete because we can actually bring it in cheaper from a third party. And that third party are our friends at Quattro, who you've seen tipping non-has. So we are halfway through slab number 1. This has been 2 lorries. We will also pour this one. Then hopefully tomorrow we'll pour the gaps in between and continue to move on. But a separate team at the same time is continuing with this shuttering. With all this going on, we have 2 trains booked in for this week, but we are going to have to assess in a couple of hours because I do not believe we have enough material in the yard for 2 trains. That could change at any moment and we may have loads of lorries flying in with non-has, but at the moment we will be cancelling the train which is booked for tomorrow and keeping the one which is booked for today. At the same time, you saw last week that the cutting edge and tips arrived and we are going to begin to fit those now. We have to use the persuasion hammer and beat the pins in because the bit that you can see at the end is a spring clip to make sure that the tips stay on. Next, we're going to move on to the cutting edge for the grading bucket. I do have some bad news on this Monday morning amidst all the good going on. The council are on me about this scaffold here, saying that is in fact not a temporary structure and I need full planning permission for it. Now the trouble with that is if I apply for planning permission for this, it may get in the way of the planning permission we want to apply for a lot more bigger, more important infrastructure in the yard. So I think I'm actually going to have to take this scaffold down because I can't pay for consultants and pay all the planning costs and have all of the meetings and still possibly be told no. So we're going to look for an alternative to have some shelter over the workshop area. You know, I like to just battle everything, but I think at this point I'm going to have to think wisely and pick my battles, and I'm just going to have to concede to the council, and yes, I'm going to have to take down the lovely structure which Stella Scaffold put up for us. And Quattro have arrived again with another bottle mixer to continue with the pour. At a refurbishment project, we're working on connecting the suspended ceiling structure of the ground floor with the curved balustrade of the first floor using MF metal track system. Parts of the structure on the ground floor already built, which we do not want to alter, so we're overlapping and doubling up on some of the metal track extending to the new area. We do this as we believe a standard collector will create a weak point which moves and therefore in the future cause the plasterboard to continually crack. We're pushing on, but as the work progresses, we realize we have a question for the client. The balustrade of the first floor, the way it ties in with the ceiling level of the ground floor, there's an awful, large, flat-facing surface, and we'd like the client to tell us if it is okay how it is, or if in fact they would like us to step it. So from the balustrade, it does this, and then we have the ceiling of the ground floor. And hopefully the client can visualize it and give us an answer. But other than that, we have plenty to do there, and we are pushing on with the work. Still on the ground floor, we're removing the screed as we need to run a conduit to house the electrical supply for the fireplace. The screed is only 75mm thick, so we're using a hammer and small chisel to be delicate and ensure we don't damage the underfloor heating. The fireplace was not in the original plans, so we didn't run any services, and running through the ceiling is not an option as the client has selected a feature fireplace which you can see through on both sides and therefore does not connect with the floating wall above at any point. Now that the 6F5 is moved out of the way, the lads are going to start with our next task. We are bagging up all of the slate, all of the grey, the plum and the blue, and we're going to place them down here in this section of the yard. And I think we're going to have a bit of a sale. We're going to drop the price to get it out of the door. With the concrete making its way up the yard, we're only going to have to move it anyway, and we don't want to keep double-handed. Every time you move material, it's about £1 by the time you count the diesel and wages. So let's get it bagged, let's have a bit of a sale, and let's see who wants to come and collect some blue, plum, and grey slate. There wasn't enough going on today. I'm now heading onto the Road to Success podcast with my man Ben.
He certainly is.
Look at the setup there.
So I know you like doing things with trucks and vans, so we decided to convert one too.
Look at that.
So this is our studio.
Whoa! Look at how tight it is. We're going to be playing a bit of footsie in there, aren't we?
A little bit, yeah.
Check out the channel and the podcast when you get a moment. They'll walk out the meeting, and when the door closed, I go, I found influences from other places that maybe I shouldn't have necessarily found the influences from. First 2 slabs are successfully poured. Podcast is also done, which was cool. Just feels like having a chat and offloading, downloading all your feelings and resetting. And within the next hour, we're going to have the train backing in. The time now is 2 o'clock on the dot, and I'm heading up to my office for a Zoom, but we will be loading the train. We're mid-loading, and we've had a load of material come in for processing, which is a granite, I believe, which is very heavy and extremely strong. Now, when I look closely, I thought to myself, hold on, There's loads of insulation running through it, but it isn't. It's also like a hard concrete. Quattro are now beginning to come in. They haven't been in all day, but the lorries are now coming in thick and fast. We have no material left up the top of the yard, and the wagons right up the top have not been filled yet. We don't have enough material to spread it out in pockets as you've seen us do in the past. So we are filling the wagons in this area first with the 2 stockpiles we have here, and then we're going to get the loco to push the wagons as far in as possible, and the wagons which are currently at the top, which are empty, we're going to hopefully be able to fill them with the material we have here. Now, I've cancelled the train for tomorrow because I was anticipating loads of material coming in, but it's a little bit too late. Quattro have probably only tipped about 8 or 9 loads by now. So this will be the last train that we have in a while, and we're going to begin to stockpile it in the other area which we created a little while back. I think we're going to need to check our tape measure, because when the loco pushed the wagons right into the yard all the way down to the B stop, we still couldn't reach the wagons at the top. But fortunately, the shunter worked with us, and we pulled the wagons off the primary line. We put some onto the secondary line, uncoupled, and then went out onto the main line and reversed back in again on the primary line, and we were able to reach all the wagons. We fully loaded the train. Double checked our weights, and then the train was good to go. It's Tuesday, we're in the yard. Quattro have been in already this morning and tipped 10 loads. The time is 8 a.m. They're not going to be back in till about 3:30, but we can see already that our fantastic new area surrounded with Jersey barriers is working. That's what 10 loads of non-haz looks like. A good start to a Tuesday morning. In throwing the 6F5 over from the other side to make space for the concrete in, I've seen a lot of the stony gear has landed at the bottom. So we're going to have to turn this over a little bit and get mixing, because we won't have the consistency in the material. Load of bags made yesterday while the forklift couldn't get past the L860. This is the remains of the non-haz. So we're going to get the 914. We're going to bring all of this material together in 1, 2, and 3, 4 piles. Once those piles are made, we can load that material onto a tipper, take it round to the new non-haz tipping area, and now, for the second day in a row, the concreting can begin. In the past, I've made videos on learning to drive a train. Click here to watch that video. And we've done videos on the engineering behind installing a train line. Click here to watch that video. Also, when I was doing those videos, you know that I am into trains. Are you not into trains? But I also wanted to share with people that rail can be fun, and there are careers in rail. I want to take that one step further. And I'm happy to say I am working with the RFG to put on an event and then a careers day for young people to let them know the opportunities and careers that they could have within rail. I'm going to get Network Rail involved, ask some of the freight operators. I'm going to ask possibly the company that installed our train line, because I believe it's really important to attract young people into rail. But if you don't tell them about rail, and they don't have the information, how can you expect them to know the possibilities? Some young people think that if you're not a train driver, then you can't be in the rail sector, which isn't true. You know, you could be an engineer, you could be an architect drawing up plans, you could work within the signalling office. There are plenty of great career opportunities. So I want to share that with the young, because the young people are the future. And in my humble opinion and my experience, please don't take this the wrong way. The people that I see within rail are mature. So I want to encourage anyone to come forward and come to the event. Hopefully it'll be a venue which can seat about 500 people. I'm going to try to invite some of my friends within media. I'm not going to mention their names, because if they're busy on that day and they can't come, then you're going to be very upset. But more details will be shared, and it will be fun. It will not be me standing on a stage pointing in everyone's face saying, you have to do this job, this is what you have to do. No, I will be providing the information and making the day as fun as possible. And there will definitely be people from different companies who may be offering apprenticeships, opportunities, or education so people can advance in the rail sector. Or it could just be an inspirational day where they don't want to be involved in rail, but they are inspired and they want to move into other fields, for instance, construction or haulage. I will keep you posted on the details. And now let's head into central London and see how the lads are getting on with the finishing bits and pieces at the Penthouse project. Today the focus is in the shower area. Chris is working on the second fix. Each item is carefully installed, tested, and adjusted where needed. We're pretty much at this stage in all rooms, so we'll be handing the property back to the client in a few weeks. Wednesday and I'm in the yard. We have been servicing the L860 and it looks like it's just in time, because when we dumped all the oil out of it, it looked very black and felt like it had lost its lubrication. It took us 30 litres of our 10W40 oil to get it back up to the level where we need it to be, and we had to change 2 fuel filters, 2 oil filters, 2 hydraulic filters, but we've only changed 1 because they only had 1 in stock, a servo filter connected to the hydraulics, a cab air filter and an air filter. The LA60 is there or thereabouts, other than the bottom track guides, which Welder Faber said he's looking into for us, which do not go on this side, they go on the other side. And this morning, can you imagine, I arrived in the yard and the council were here. Apparently we had a meeting scheduled. I didn't have it in my diary, but to be fair, because I am a man who complains sometimes, they were very reasonable with us. And the council looked around the yard and they said,
Daniel, you have done exactly what you said you would. You're trying to mitigate all of the mud going onto the road. You have started your concreting. You are using the yard for rail. You have upped the amount of trains. You're bagging material. You did everything you said you would.
Now, I explained to them that at one point we're going to have to move the offices because we're going to have to concrete the area there. And the workshop, as I told you before, was the problem. They said I needed planning for it. I explained to the council, if you look at the slab differences in the new slab and where the workshop is now, the workshop has to be moved and relocated so we can do the groundwork in this area. So if it is moved and relocated, therefore, it must be a temporary structure. So I believe the meeting went really well. I believe I helped them gain an understanding and that I am not just waffling. However, I'm going to have to wait for their email because they have to take notes on our meeting and then officially send me a reply. And at that point, I'll know if the meeting went as I think it did. And of course, today, as we were every day this week, the concreting continues. There have been a lot of questions about our train. Where is it and what are we doing with it? Click here to watch a video where I talk about our own 40-ton train. Now, it's still being held for us and we do want it, but I have to think about where I'm going to put it. We haven't concreted the front of the yard and we are going to find ourselves in hot water with the council, despite how well the meeting went this morning, because they're saying that we're going to need planning permission for it because it's going to be fixed and become a building. It is not working on the train line, moving anything. So it is not in the service of rail. It's just me basically being a big kid. And I can't just put a 27-meter train wagon wherever I want, even though this is a rail yard. So I'm just trying to focus on the fundamentals in the yard of getting the yard running well, getting it concreted, and then I'm going to have to approach that once we get the basics right, because that is going to complicate matters at the moment. Speaking of trains though, GB Rail Freight have their first Class 99 coming into the country. Look at that. That is a hybrid, one of a kind, futuristic. It works on both diesel and electric. Right about now, it's somewhere in the Czech Republic. It is going to get shipped to the UK. When it gets shipped to the UK, we would like to be there to see it come off a boat, go onto a lorry, and be transported to the test centre. I'm just waiting for GB Rail Freight and the haulier to confirm that we are allowed to cover that. A couple of weeks ago, there was a job that DAFCON and McGee were doing when I was doing my brokering bit. So we gave the client an all-in price, and then DAFCON and McGee gave us a day rate, and then we were bringing the non-hazardous material into the yard and giving the client a cost to tip per ton. Well, I've just been told that that job is starting up again tomorrow. It is going to run tomorrow and Friday. Not Monday, because it's bank holiday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of next week also. Another bit of good news. And now we head back into the yard to see the concreting continue. It's Thursday morning and I'm in the yard. We're trying to put a plan in place to move material. There's 3 lorries on day work, each bringing 2 loads of non-haz. When they tip their second load to ensure that they've got their work done and they're not going to get back late, I'm going to ask for a favor. If they could each load some non-haz, which has been set up for the train, and take it over to the storage area for the non-haz, tip it there on the way back to the weighbridge. That should help us out massively. And all we'll have left is a pile of 6F5, which I hope will be sold soon, and a pile of material that actually needs to be processed to make more 6F5. Today is probably my mum's favorite day of the year as well. She's at the Chelsea Flower Show. If you remember a couple of weeks back in Weekly, I was with the team setting up using the 3D concrete printer. And my mum is heading to that stand today to take a look around and give her seal of approval. Mumsy went for the flowered look of camouflage, so nobody would know it was her. And she's gone buying Chelsea Flower Show bags at some prices what I don't want to repeat. And I was hustled for the fish and chip money, because everybody likes fish and chips at the Chelsea Flower Show. I can see now the first load from DAFCON and McGee is about to come in and be tipped in the processing pile. Nice bit of rubble there. Give it a little pick to take out any of the little bits which all look within tolerance, and this will be piled up ready for processing. The concrete is really beginning to take shape with the infills now dry. How much different is that? How great does that look? It's like almost concrete as far as the eye can see. Look at that. So we're already putting a calendar when each of these were poured, so we know when it's been 28 days, so we'll be able to get on top of these. One thing we've already had to take into account and think of is the fact that the L860 is not going to be able to track over this anymore and have metal on concrete because it's going to eat away at the tracks. We have to get some rubber attachments or something onto the L860 so when it's going over this area, it doesn't destroy itself. I don't know if it's the same in all sectors, but for some reason, with construction, in my experience, when you deal with people outside of the trade, there always seems to be an expectation on price and costs which has been drawn up out of thin air. Looked at a new job and I always ask the budget. I'm not asking the budget so I can price the job at the budget. I'm asking the budget to see if we're on the same page. Because if somebody says,
I would like a basement in central London, an extension, loft conversion. There's 4 bathrooms. I need to do the kitchen. I want home automation, air conditioning, and it's an 8,000 square foot house.
And I say, what is your budget? And they say,
£5,000.
I will respectfully save both of us some time and say, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to deliver a scheme like that based on your budget. When you get the budget from someone and you let them know based on what you're saying and based on comparable previous completed projects, I think that it will cost somewhere in the region of X, and it could be higher or lower within 10% of that figure. Then you take the time to go and look at the job. And then once you look at the job, you may spot a few more things, or it may not be as complicated because of the person's understanding. And then you put together some budget costing. You don't go into the detailed quotation stage because that takes a lot of time and therefore costs a lot of money. When you provide someone with the budget cost, which is in line with the cost you previously gave to bring their budget up or down to wherever it needed to be, at that point, somehow it becomes more expensive. But it wasn't expensive before anyone took the time to come and have a look at the job and spend days talking through it with you. And then you need to remain to be professional, but when you're trying to explain to someone a field which you are in day to day, and all they say is,
oh, it must be cheaper. Can't you do something on it?
And then you respectfully, because, you know, sometimes people throw their anchor out at sea unknowingly, like, and you need patience with people. When you explain that it is going to cost X and here are comparables, why don't you go and look at some of our completed projects? And they say,
someone else can do it cheaper.
And you say, well, go with them. And they say,
oh, I don't want to, and I haven't gone to look at their work.
You end up in a place like a kind of stalemate. And the expectation at that stalemate is that you will do the work for cheaper somehow, like you will find the money. Then when you try to break it down and say, well, the staff aren't going to work for cheaper or for free. The builders merchants aren't going to give me any material for free. The council aren't going to discount any of their suspensions outside. The rubbish removal is not going to be any cheaper. The diesel, the finance on the van and the insurance. I've gone to all these people and no one wants to give a discount so you can add value to your home while paying less at the same time. So where is that money to come from? And more importantly, where do people get the expectation on price from? I don't know if that happens in other sectors, but throughout my life in construction, this has continuously happened. And it's not specific to a particular postcode, like an affluent postcode, a postcode further out of central London. Every single postcode. You always meet people who say that
it must be cheaper and it's not that complicated.
Now, me personally, I have never asked someone to do anything for me and then tried to simplify what they do for a living to justify it being cheaper for me, so I can get more value out of it. I've never done that. I've never walked into a showroom or a restaurant and gone in the kitchen and said, you must be able to buy the ingredients from the supermarket cheaper. Can't you pay the waiter less money? So I have to pay less. I've never done that. But somehow it happens to me every now and then. Not all the time. And I'm not referring to any of the clients which we currently have or projects in the past. They are coincidentally projects which we haven't taken on because we haven't come to an agreement with that particular potential client. I don't know, tell me, does that happen in your sector, or is it just specific to people in construction who should either work for free or not be allowed to make a profit, because profit is a dirty word and you're not allowed to make any money? Circling back and going to Mumsy's day at the Chelsea Flower Show, this is why there is a limit of 1 Pimms per day. My mum had the fish and chips, it's all well and good, and it turned into Pimms o'clock. And this is what's happening. My mum met the lads from Landform, everything was good, and then she went to that stand and the day has taken a turn. I'm not sure if I'm going to have to leave work and go down to the London embankment to collect Mumsy in a couple of hours with a flower in her hair. Let's hope that she jumps in the cab I send for her and makes her way home safely. And that's it for Thursday. Friday and I'm in the yard, and today may be a record-breaking day. We're hoping with what's scheduled we're going to beat the amount of non-haz which is tipped in here, because we have lads bringing in from the job round the corner, but we also have Dafcon and McGee on the work bringing the non-hazardous screenable material in at the same time. Our aim for today is 1,200 tons, which will beat our record by about 150 tons. At the same time, we are carrying on with the bags and we are pouring concrete. Having a think on where to draw the line between taking control of a supply chain and what you should keep using subcontractors and third parties for. When you bring things in-house and do new product lines, you have more control. And if you're going to do it on a grand scale, or if you plan to do it on a grand scale, then you can keep an eye on the quality. Especially if you have a project coming up and there is something specific within that project what you're going to have to use someone else for. But then there's the flip side of that. Hello lads, you all right? There's the flip side of that, where the project could be over or your business could change and that particular product line is then costing you money, and then as opposed to having work for it, you're trying to find work for it. So it's about finding a balance. How are we doing? First loads have just come in. Going back to what I was saying, it's about finding a balance and deciding what is going to become a liability and what you want to do long term. How much will it cost to start a new line or bring something in-house? And do you already have the infrastructure in place? Do you have the support system for it? And can you continue to do it? Or is it going to become a hindrance in the future? It's not an easy decision to make sometimes. And sometimes when everything is going well for you, it seems like you can't do anything wrong. If you keep going and keep going and keep going, that will happen indefinitely. For some people it will, but I just feel sometimes in reality, and I'm not just taking my circumstances into account, it's unsustainable and possibly unrealistic. I've been guilty of this in the past, to think that everything you touch till the end of time in business will automatically strike gold. Sometimes you've got to take like 2 steps back in order to take 1 or 2 or eventually 3 steps forward. LA60. I'm going to make a note of the servicing that we did earlier in the week. All of the filters and the hours at which we did it, and any particular notes or areas we need to watch for. A bit like having a service book for your vehicle, but we're gonna start doing it on this and the 914. Material's still coming in, thick and fast. Look at that. Another one down there. Hopefully a record-breaking day. And we'll go around and take a look at the concreting now. Saturday, not in the yard. I'm working from home today. There are some lads in the yard. It's not very busy. We're still preparing for concrete on Monday. We have bags to continue making and we still have material to move, but I have decided to work from home. So I've kind of got silence and I can focus. And the video team have made a list for me of things they are saying I have not addressed and I have kind of left open. So I'm going to go through this little list and specifically answer a couple of questions, or do my best anyway. The first one is, the team are saying that people keep asking if some of the things I say in the videos are indirectly pointing at other people? The answer to that is no. But in saying that, if there is anyone who believes that something I'm saying is relevant to them or it's targeting them, I think that's more on them than it is on me. And if the shoe fits, the loading shovels. For clarity, both the 566 and 586 loading shovels are gone. Ashville currently do not have loading shovels. When we went through the restructure process, for clarity once again, because these shovels had no finance, they were fully paid for, they were part of the process and people were allowed to bid on them. Now you have to remember, I've had those shovels for 4 or 5 years. I know exactly what is wrong with them. I know the good and the bad, and I know how much it will be to fix certain parts of the shovel. I know parts of the shovels that I have been nursing just to keep them going. And we have been looking for a while at replacing the shovels. When the shovels went through the process, we bid on them ourselves at a point, but then I realized and heard through the grapevine that people were just really excited because they were our shovels and they somehow felt like they were getting one over on us by buying a shovel that we know all the problems with that we've had for years, and you are giving your money to pay for a shovel. It's kind of a bit of a giveaway if the person who has it and maintains it doesn't want to pay for the shovel because they know how much more money it needs. So as we went through the process and I saw the way people were excitingly bidding, I decided to let the shovels go. Now you may say you need a shovel in the yard for what you're doing. We are going to replace the shovels, but I am waiting for demos. And it's a bit of bad timing. I've been told by one manufacturer that the first demo is going to come into us in June. And in the yard, until that point, unfortunately, in the nicest possible way also, we just need to make do. There was so long when there were 2 shovels in the yard, the 566, because it's smaller, parked up for like 4 or 5 days. People driving the shovel, using it as a taxi to park, to go to the toilet, and then drive back. And I want to use the bigger shovel because it's better. And then only using the 566 when the 586 was blocked in the rail yard or it was broken down. And I'm not going to be wasting money as I did in the past. So our team have to adapt and evolve and use what we have, irrespective of how difficult it is, because we can get by, we can do it. We will need to do that until we have a new shovel in the yard. My Rolls Royce. I did buy a Rolls Royce a very, very long time ago. This must be like 4, 5 years ago. Yanni had a video on his channel that actually did 1 million views. It was something that I always wanted. It was on my list. I got that car for a very good price. I did not buy it brand new. Somebody bought it brand new, and unfortunately for them, they lost about 100 grand. And then there I was, because Yanni is a car guy, he has connections in the car world. I slipped in there and bought it at a very good price. 2 years after, when it had just been sitting in my garage for weeks on end, doing nothing, somebody offered me what I paid for the car 2 years ago when I bought it. So I got out of the car as soon as I possibly could. When somebody offers you something on a depreciating asset, what you paid for it 2 years later and it's costing you money, you get out of it. So that's what I did. It has been gone for years. My Defender, also gone. You'll notice, if you've been watching weekly, all the times when my windows were getting smashed and I was having problems with my car. I'm not saying it was targeted at me, but a lot of people knew it was my car. It was easily recognizable, and I park a lot in central London. There was more stuff that went on than what I showed in the weekly, but I wanted to stop showing it because I just felt like it was negative and it was systemic, like it was just a downward spiral. Once again, when we were going through the process, I called my mate Simon at Urban and I said, Si, can you sell this? He said yes. I sold it for what I paid for it. I didn't lose any money. I got out of it. I drove the Amarok for a little while. When Terry left, I drove his Amarok. I drove Sam's Amarok for a little while. And now I have got a car. If you really want to know, I can tell you, but I just prefer at the moment to just keep it quiet. And I also feel, maybe wrongly, that what I drive, I don't think it's really important. I think the focus on the minute is coming out of the restructure and Ashville's new form and pushing forward. I don't spend as much time in the car as I did previously. A lot of the time I'm in the yard or at home. So I don't film in the car anymore. And I just want to analyze what happens when I don't have an Ashville number plate on the car. I'm not saying what I drive at the moment isn't recognizable, and if you do your homework, you're not going to know what car is mine, but it's not as easy as spotting an Ashville number plate and my bait Defender with Ashville written across the bonnet. I'm just assessing and doing a little bit of an experiment to see if anything happens to the car that I am driving at the moment. My personal channel. Now, you know I like to level with you, so I'm going to fully level with you here. I shouldn't have started it. I wasn't ready to do it. And you'll notice on this channel as well, at the moment, there's only weeklies coming out, and there are also no standalone videos. With the personal channel, to be honest, I'm struggling to know what is best to put on that channel, because I have a real problem in I don't feel like you should make content that doesn't add value somehow. If the content isn't going to give people some sort of value or they can learn something from it, then why are you doing it? You're just going to do it, oh, look at me, pay attention to me, I'm here, look, pay attention to me. That just feels so cringe to me. And if I can't find a way that what I'm going to share is going to add value, then I'd rather just not do it. I'm not saying I'm not going to. I'm still battling with the idea in my head and thinking about how I'm going to present it. Maybe you guys can tell me what you think or what you'd like to see on that personal channel. Back to this channel, the reason I haven't been doing the standalone videos is because we haven't got the time at the moment. And once again, the videos need to add value, and I just can't put out content which isn't good. I'm not looking at what anyone else is doing on YouTube. I'm looking at what Christopher Nolan is doing in the Batman trilogy. And when the bat went over the building and it went over the side, and I can't just film anything and make a video for the sake of it. I just can't do it. There's got to be a graphic. There's got to be an explanation. There's got to be something you can take from it. It's got to be easy to watch. And these things take time. And I haven't had the time to do it. In a minute, I'm going to watch a draft of how to create recycled material and how crushers work. But once again, there's multiple graphics in it. I need to have, right at the beginning of the video, the bespoke ident. And I get all this, you know, in Simpsons, when there's something different all the time at the beginning. I've got it in my head and I just can't let it go. You'll notice in our content, there's so many cutaways. Cutaways is when I mention something, it happens on screen. I've been told that's because I've watched too much Family Guy over the years. Maybe so, but the content has to be at a certain level. And I'm not even thinking in my head how many people are going to watch it, The majority of the videos which I have taken the most pleasure in doing, which I think are our best work, which has taken me the most time, those aren't even the videos that, in my opinion, do well. Journey of a Rock, World War II bunker underneath a quarry, world's biggest ship, a skip boat at sea. All these videos are the videos that I'm passionate about and go out, but there are weeklies where, in my opinion, all I've been doing is saying, Brad, this is what happened this week. They do a lot better. So I hope that this little segment has answered a couple of questions. Let us know in the comments if there are more unanswered questions or stories which were ongoing, which you'd like me to address. And that's it for Ashville Weekly, episode 242. Click here for the Ashville website. Click here to subscribe to our channel. Click down here to see an Ashville video you may not have seen before. And click down here for last week's episode, which was number 241.